Hi, my name is Liz from Lohas Canada, and this is podcast number 2. So we're going to be talking about some sewing, some knitting items. I also talk about the linear, recycled, and circular model. I focus more on eco-friendly products, having a look at them. I make eco-friendly products, but also passing on that information of what I'm finding to share to you. The reasons I knit and sew and why this is a part of the eco-friendly journey is because then I can swap out those ready-to-made items with me-made items. So then I really appreciate it. I'm getting the things that I want, and it's just more of a skill set that I'm getting that I know I can make it. I don't have to run out and buy it. So it's just swapping out those clothings, not doing a drastic overchange because obviously I can't sew and knit that fast, but increasing it every time. You know, if I want to buy something, some sort of article of clothing, figuring out how to make it instead of continuously buying those things. So that's really the reason why I got into knitting, is because I was getting so frustrated with the socks that I was finding. They would have holes in it. I work outside, so they were getting a lot of use and just tearing, and I was getting so fed up just buying quantities of socks and then them just being garbage. So I started knitting my own socks and understanding it, and that's kind of how I got to this point and kind of increasing it now fully to other things in my wardrobe. So let's talk about some knitting objects that I finished. I was able to finish these mitts. So these fingerless gloves. So they're originally for a project. I thought I would be able to knit them in a 10 by 10 square, but I misjudged and counted, so I just stitched up the seams and was able to finish those off. I also finished off some lovely socks that I used from some wool that I had left over, and I knitted up just ankle socks. We'll see how long they stay up and slide down. We'll have to see, but it was just more of an experiment and to use up the socks, and it was really nice tweed. Those are all the finished objects for this month. So the things that I'm working on for this month, I'm working on the bandana. And I have never done cable work, so I screwed it up, and it's not cable work, I just carried the stitches over. Oh. So this is how much. I'm doing it in a fingering, so the bandana I'm doing in a fingering weight, so you can wear it as like a scarf, or you can wear it as a bandana or anything like that. So really nice, gonna be very, very soft. I want to make another one of these in thicker material for the winter, next winter. So my next object I'm working on, I'm doing my very first sweater. So I've already made a bunch of mistakes on it, but for this is my first sweater by Marley Bird, and I am a little bit behind. It was a knit along that she did last year in 2019, and it's 2020 this year, so she did it last spring. So I'm just trying to follow the steps for every week. So the yarn that I'm knitting the sweater on is from Cascade Yarns, and it's called Eco Cloud. So it is a really nice thick yarn. I think it's worsted or argan. I don't really know those. So it's 70% undyed merino wool and 30% undyed baby alpaca. So it's really nice and squishy. It's not one of those farm yarns. I do have a sweater that's more of a farm yarn, and it does irritate my neck a little bit. So I wanted something that's going to be close to the skin, and so that is what I have found. Is kind of a little bit trickier because either I'm a slow knitter or I just don't invest that much time. I'm spending about 45 minutes to an hour in the morning, and then in the evening I'm spending about an hour doing it, and I've did that for 7 days, and there was even a little social event where I can knit at, but I'm still not to where they are, so either they're very fast knitters or maybe that they just spend a lot more time doing it. So I'm a little bit behind, but I'm going down into week number 3, so we'll see how that goes. So with that, I had to get some yarn for the sweater, and it finally came in, and this is Cascade Yarns, and they're from Peru. So this one is a cotton linen blend. So I was thinking in the summertime, coming up to summertime, it is January right now, at the end of January, and so I wanted something that was cotton that I can knit some t-shirts with. So I really want to challenge myself to try to knit all summer as well, because usually I kind of drop off it for knitting in the summertime and then I pick it up once it gets cold. I think it's just the texture of the wool in my hands, so it'll be a different challenge. Still, this one's Cotton Cloud from Estelle Yarns, and I was not expecting it to be this bright. It is quite bright blue. I can just make a cardigan or a t-shirt. It is cotton, so that's why I chose it. I thought this was going to be more of a muted blue. I have a shirt that's more of a muted blue that I was hoping to swap out my clothes with, and that's kind of the whole point of why I'm knitting. So the other yarn that I got is from Diamond Luxury. It's a sock lady, and it's 60% superwash wool, 20% alpaca, and 20% nylon. So nylon is plastic, but it does definitely make your socks last way longer, and I love stripes in socks, and it just has that color palette where it's down at my feet and it's not just all over me. So nylon obviously is a man-made material, and it gives structure and wear and tear so that your socks last longer. And if you've ever knitted socks, you know that it takes I think it takes me like 17 hours to knit one sock. So you want to have that, not a pair, which is one sock. So you really want to have that durability and stability. I have knit with just 100% wool, and it does seem okay, but I'm really cautious of what I'm wearing and if it's going to be rubbing against stuff. It is really nice, but I know it's not going to last as long as if it had nylon in it. So the other thing is this is superwash. So now I've been researching more about superwash, which is a chemical procedure that will get rid of the little bumps that irritate the people's skin. So almost like little, I don't really know what they are. I'm not really diverse into this. I'm just learning. So in the future, I'm going to try not to get superwash wool, or if there is some other environmentally friendly superwash wool. I did watch a couple podcasts which did talk about superwash wool, and they're definitely more informative than I am, so I'm just learning about it now so that I can make more of an informed choice. So the other thing that I've been playing with, not that I don't have enough hobbies as it is dyeing wool using natural dyes, so things from the kitchen. So this wool is from Salt Spring Island, from their sheep, and then I put a binder on it, and then I dyed it with turmeric. So this is a really nice, I even washed it several times to make sure and see if it would fade, because there are a lot of people who were saying that it does fade. Making a whole separate video on that, and you can check it out, but I love it. I love the color. I've tested it. It does transfer a little bit, so I probably wouldn't be wearing it or washing it with other things. So I'm still kind of playing with it and testing it out, but that's kind of the fun of it, and figuring out different colors. Car air freshener. So with the felted wool, they really take well with the essential oils when you put on them, and then also the lava beads. So that was a pretty easy make, so I'm gonna go test that out in the car. I've seen lots of people use them and make them, but it's just one of those things I want to try it out before I make more of them. So I do want to show you just a quick embroidery thing. I think for myself, because there's just so many crafty things to do, if I just do a little bit, maybe like 10-15 minutes every day of different things, then my skill level is going to obviously improve, just because I'm using that every single day just for a little bit, just to try to get it in. So this is just a piece of cloth and some embroidery thread. And so I'm just learning about the French knots and trying to kind of perfect them. You can see some of those colors are looking not so French knot-like, but it's just a way to play with different knots, because there's like a book that I have that I got from the thrift store. It's like, learn 200 knots. So if I learn 2 and kind of get really good at them a little bit, and before I moved on to the next knot. So just kind of a fun embroidery task. And I just got the hoop from a thrift store, so it still has its tag on. It was 50 cents. And just using a scrap piece of fabric. So let's talk about some sewing items. So one of the main items for me is sleepwear because I love sleeping, but I want it to be 100% cotton or linen or something that feels really nice to my body. I don't want it to be breathable, basically. So I've been trying to look for 100% cotton, and either they become really, really short or really, really like ugly looking, not my taste, or just like some weird huge saying on it, and I'm just like, oh no, I just want a basic, nice gown type thing that is breathable, and it's actually been kind of difficult to find. So at my local thrift store, they have a pattern section and they're 25 cents each. So I was having a look and I found a pattern, and I don't think they make this one anymore, but it's Butterick 3559. So the one I'm making is in the very middle. It is the pink one, and I'm going to be using a hemp cotton mix, and it's this dark color grayish. So the only thing is I don't have the lace at the top. I don't own lace, so what I'm doing is just another strip. I've had to modify it. This is a medium, and because it's my first sewing garment thing I've done since like 15 years, that I haven't really done it, and I've not really paid too much attention on my measurements because I was thinking it was just, you know, for sleepwear, so it doesn't really matter what size, but it is quite large. So I'm just gonna have to tailor it and figure it out. I was not doing it for the longest time because I was like, oh, you know, it's gonna look horrible, you know, all those inner dialogue thoughts, and then it was just like, well, no one's gonna see it, I can always tailor it. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So I've cut out the pieces, I've sewed the side seams and the armholes, so I'm just figuring out the top part and then also tailoring it and figuring out how to do that. So it's a nice hemp cotton mix, and it goes just below my knee, kind of well below my knee actually. So I didn't want it too high up and I didn't want it too far down on the floor either. So just a nice length. So you never know what you're gonna find at the thrift store, so no one's gonna see it and critique it. So it's a great first item in this transition from you know, ready to wear to me made items. So I just do prototypes, and I just try to sew different things and see if they work out, and my first prototype is usually okay, and then once you do a couple more and you figure out how you're supposed to sew it and what is more effective, it gets better and better. So this is a concept that I had last year, and I just got so busy. I didn't finish it, but it's another prototype. My thought was about envelopes. So if I was giving a card to someone, a nice really handmade card from someone who's really artistic, then having those envelopes are kind of useless because you kind of just throw them away, and that's a lot of paper and that's a lot of waste that goes into it. I want to support local artists. Hopefully they'll keep the card, you know, frame it if it's really nice. But for those envelopes, I think that it's just kind of a waste. So my idea, and obviously this is just prototype number one, my idea was to sew an envelope. This one turned out to be the wrong size that I was thinking about, and what I would also do is put a clasp on there. I don't know if I would put a button. I would have to make it larger, I think. Maybe I would do a button. But something like that, and then some sort of design on the front because it kind of looks a little bit plain, but just trying to think outside of the box of what our day-to-day items are that we can make, that we can replace, you know, single-use paper, single-use plastic. So I want to switch gears and chat a little bit about a linear model, a recycled model, and a circular model. So what do those all mean? So a linear model is you use it, you buy it, you use it, and it goes right into the trash. That's what we've been doing for a lot of the time. The recycled model, you buy it, you use it, and then it gets recycled into something new and you reuse it again, possibly, but we really don't know 100% where it all goes, what it's being made into, unless it says recycled from this and this, and it doesn't even mean that it's in your country that it's been recycled from. And then the circular model is that you make it, you reuse it, you repurpose it, and you find what to do with it. So it's taking more ownership of that. And for a lot of times that's really scary because we then need a skill, we need to figure that out, we need to have that responsibility, and it is a lot of pressure having those different things and acquiring them. And a lot of times you see people and they're like, oh, you have that skill because you went to school for it or you were brought up with it, and it just really keeps on having those blocks within our lives that we can't pick up skills, that we aren't able to do certain things, so we kind of forget about the circular model. And a lot of the eco-friendly movement is more on the recycled area. So we're looking for alternatives to replace things that are in our lives so we can keep the lifestyle that we want and feel good about doing it. It requires no skill to do that except for shopping. And shopping is something that we've been taught, so it is something we can unteach ourselves, but it is a lesson we've been taught of how do you do it? Oh, you just go shop and you just buy it. That's the normal thing. So with the circular model and acquiring those skills, you don't have to be adverse to everything. You don't have to know everything that's going on, but you can take from those things and trade maybe and sell those things and then trade it for money again. So there's different circular things and repurposing everything to figure out how we can use it again or how somebody else could use it. So on this eco-friendly journey, I was at the thrift store and I found soap nuts. So great, these soap nuts are a great alternative to buying plastic laundry detergent, and I can use them and they'll be great, and this is what they look like. So they're really nice and small, and you put them in a bag, and depending on how your load is, how dirty it is, or how much you have in, you put a couple of them in the bag and you throw them in. And a couple of times though, the bag opened up and I forgot I was doing the soap nut thing and there's just a bunch of nuts in there, and so it was just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm doing soap nuts. So it worked, you know, they really worked out really well. But then I started researching it a bit more. So these are from India. So the package I got says they're grown in northern India and they're dried berries. So I feel good about it because that I'm using it. I'm not creating more waste. I have these things that can be put in my compost. They'll break down. They're regular plants. But I'm in Canada. So they're actually, you know, not native to here. So for me to use them, I'm still buying that. I'm now taking the resources away from where these plants are growing, where they're being used, and making myself feel good about them and trying them out and experimenting with them. But I'm still in that recycled model where I'm still buying stuff. It's still going recycled back into the planet, but it's not from here. So I'm actually taking away and contributing to that movement of taking away from other people's resources as well. So with all these trends that come up and come down, they put pressure on those communities that have these products to sell them, not use them for themselves. So it's kind of the same thing like when couscous came out. It was this huge trend. It was like the superfood. It was the ancient grains type thing. And over time, we realized with all these huge trends, the people that have been eating it for, you know, centuries weren't actually able to afford to eat it because it was all being exported, and having that in their own country now was not a profit maker, and they weren't able to afford it anymore. So using different things like that, when you see those things, you're like, wow, like, yeah, our trends are really harmful to the environment, to the people who are natively using them and trying to be sustainable in their area. And just because I want to feel better about using something that's not plastic, I need to start learning basically what the things are in my area that I can use that's an alternative. On this eco-friendly journey is not about the judgment of it or pointing blame, is that we just need to re-educate ourselves. We're all in different parts of the journey of where we are. So I'm trying to educate myself on what grows here, what I can use to incorporate in my life here, so I'm not constantly buying things that I can use it within nature, and then also how to sustainably use that without harming the plant or the tree or whatever that I'm taking from it. So really purposely looking at those different things that we're using, because that is also part of, I think, the circular economy, is that we're finding those native plants to our area that are growing in abundance here. So I just wanted to share that with you about these journeys that I'm finding with this eco-friendly journey and what's happening within those communities. I think with a lot of people, there's so many different levels of and journeys of people of where they are in their eco-friendly journey, and it is really overwhelming and really daunting because there is just so much information out there, and we're basically just trying to swap out things, right? We're trying to swap out different things within our lives so that we're not using it and wasting it. A lot of things like fabric and lumber and stuff, we've been exporting and importing it so much that a lot of times we don't have mills here, or we don't have manufacturers here anymore because it's been so much cheaper to do it. And I think with those baby steps that it will inform you, inform other people, and then you're able to start building up and have a foundation rather than just continuously making these swaps in these recycled economy. I still have lots of questions when people are like, oh, I've been on this eco-friendly journey for a long time, and because I sell eco-friendly products, people have asked me a lot of questions and then I've had to research it. And so sometimes people have said that they've on an eco-friendly journey, I'll ask them and they're like, oh, I don't know, because you know, plastic was a thing back then, so that's kind of what I use, but I just keep on reusing the same plastic. So just having those different types of transitions and those different types of journeys, I think because we have grown up with plastic quite a bit, so it's like our, you know, our great-great-grandparents had that resources and those skills to use what they had, to use what they made, and figuring out all those skills that were taught to them and pass those on. We're now in kind of a generation, you know, my generation, the generation before, so my mom and my dad, and possibly even the generation before that didn't really get those skills passed on to them. So we're kind of in this lost generation of possibly 2-3 generations, probably now even more because there's more generations after that have those skills not been transferred, and so we're trying to reclaim them and be more of a circular economy. So let me know of your skills in the comments. So let me know what you thought of the linear, recycled, and circular economy. Let me know where you are at, if you have any skills, or if you're going to start acquiring skills, or if you're just fine right now being in the recycled or linear economy because that is just where you're at. So let me know, and I will chat to you later. Bye!